Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today, let me readjust my camera a little bit. Nope, a little too much, I think, in that. There we go. That's what we needed. So I can get it to focus a little more properly. Anyway, yeah, today we're going to be talking about an actual event. But we want to put it in context of its importance. People often think in America, communism, socialism, and the other left ideations have always been shunned. That's just not true. They have a significant part to play in American history. It's just there's been so much propaganda following World War II. Yeah. The different left ideas have always played a part in America, though. Yeah. Early on, early 1800s, the Shakers, they lived in very communist situations. I mean, literally, that connects to the word commune. People living together in a utopian society where it's not about money and everything. But it would be in the 1860s and 1870s that we would see a change. The workers' movement was gaining traction, even though we were fighting with the growing power during the Gilded Age. But workers were still like, hey, we deserve rights. This was joined by the immigrant influx, presenting other ideas. Also around this time, this is where Marx and Engels produce it really comes into effect, their Communist Manifesto. But yeah, one of the big crescendos that came from this, the Haymarket Massacre, known for a number of different names. It was also called the Haymarket Affair, the Haymarket Riot, the Haymarket Square Riot, or the Haymarket Incident. Now, let's see. Essentially, it became extremely violent. But workers were trying to fight for their rights. See, we're still talking during the age when rights of workers were highly restricted. All the power and the ball, so to speak, was in the court of the capitalists. Here is from Zen Education Project. May the 4th, 1886, the Haymarket tragedy. May the 4th, 1886, peaceful demonstration in Chicago for the 8-hour day ended in tragedy when police barged in and a bomb exploded. So yeah, they were fighting for the right just to only have to work 8 hours in a day. Although no one knew who threw the bomb, 8 labor organizers, all known anarchists, see, a part of that far leftist ideology. They were blamed and tried for conspiracy, despite there being no evidence tying the 8 men to the bombing, and the fact that several men were not even present at the demonstration that day. These men were singled out for their political beliefs. 7 of them, Samuel Fielden, Albert Parsons, Louis Ling, August Spies, Adolf Fischer, and George Engel. That's 6. Frieden, Parsons, Ling, Spies, Fisher. Yeah, they've only given me 6, but it says 7. Were sentenced to death, and one, Oscar Neebe, to 15 years in prison. Okay, labor activist Lucy Parsons led the campaign to win a new trial. One Chicago official called her more dangerous than 1,000 rioters. When her husband Albert Parsons and 3 other comrades were executed and 4 others were sentenced to prison, the movement for industrial unions and the 8-hour day was beheaded. Parsons, far from discouraged, accelerated her actions. Though she had lost Albert and 2 years later lost her young daughter to illness, Lucy Parsons would continue her crusade against capitalism and war and exonerate the Haymarket martyrs. But yeah, that's a very brief description. Let's go a little more in depth here. The Haymarket Affair from Britannica. It was a violent confrontation between police and labor protesters in Chicago, May the 4th, 1886, becoming an international symbol for international struggle for workers' rights. It has been associated with May Day, the first day of May, since that day's designation as International Workers' Day by the Second International in 1889. So yeah, 3 years later. On May the 3rd, 1 person was killed and several injured as police intervened to protect strike breakers and intimidate strikers during a union action at the McCormick Harvesting Machine Company that was part of the national campaign to secure the 8-hour workday. Yeah, always remember, police are not there to help you. They protect capital. They protect capitalist properties. They're not a friend of the working man. To protest police brutality, anarchist labor leaders called a mass meeting the next day in Haymarket Square. That gathering was pronounced peaceful by Chicago Mayor Carter Harrison, who attended as an observer. After Harrison and most of the demonstrators departed, a contingent of police arrived and demanded that the crowd disperse. At that point, a bomb was thrown by an individual never positively identified. And what do the police do? Respond with random gunfire. 7 police officers were killed and 60 wounded before the violence ended. Civilian casualties have been estimated at 4 to 8 dead and 30 to 40 injured. The incident created widespread hysteria directed against immigrants and labor leaders. Amid the panic, August spies and 7 other anarchists were convicted of murder on the grounds that they had conspired with or aided an unknown assailant. Again, they don't even know. Some of them weren't even at the protest. So, yeah, this, from the very beginning, this is all bullshit. What the police are trying to do. But they don't want to look like they can't do anything, but honestly, they have no case. Many of the so-called Chicago 8, however, were not even present at the May 4th event, and their alleged involvement was never proved. Nevertheless, spies and 3 other defendants were hanged on November the 11th, 1887, and another defendant committed suicide. In 1893, Illinois Governor John Peter Altgeld, who was petitioned by criminal attorney Clarence Darrow and others to grant clemency to the surviving 3 men. Studying the transcript of the case, Altgeld concluded that the defendants had not been given a fair trial because the judge was biased, the jury packed in the prosecution's favor, and much of the evidence fabricated. His decision to issue the pardons was widely condemned by industrialists, the capitalists, the big men of business power, industrial power, and the conservative press, but was applauded by labor reformers. The Haymarket affair had a lasting effect on the labor movement in the U.S. The Knights of Labor, at the time the largest and most successful union organization in the country, was blamed for the incident. While the Knights of Labor had sought an 8-hour day and called several strikes to achieve that goal, its involvement in the riot could not be proved. Public distrust, however, caused many Knights of Labor locals to join the newly formed and less radical American Federation of Labor. The Haymarket tragedy, Haymarket affair, Haymarket riot, inspired generations of labor leaders, leftist activists, and artists, and has been commemorated in monuments, murals, posters throughout the world, especially in Europe and Latin America. In 1893, the Haymarket Martyrs Monument was erected in a cemetery in the Chicago suburb of Forest Park. A statue dedicated to the slain police officers was erected in Haymarket Square in 1889, but was moved to the Chicago Police Department's training academy in the early 1970s after it was allegedly damaged by leftist radicals. An official commemoration, the Haymarket Memorial, was installed on the site of the riot in 2004. But yeah. This is one of the big moments. Not the only one, but it was one of the huge incidents. Unfortunately, it would always still be overshadowed by the Gilded Age rich, who would often just list labor unions, workers fighting for rights as laborers, as um, rabble rousers, essentially. But here we have a poster announcing it, and then it's in English at the top, but in the bottom it's in German. But yeah, Chicago, Illinois. In May the 3rd, there was a rally at a McCormick Harvesting Machine Company on the west side of Chicago. The next day, there was labor demonstration in Haymarket Square in Chicago, Illinois. That is where the unfortunate situation went down. But yeah, and it's ridiculous that we allow the U.S. to start cutting a lot of these labor rights back. Are we going to go back to this? Strike breakers, labor unions, when labor demonstrations get violent. Is this where we're headed again? Because the rich want to be richer and fuck over the average American. Seriously. I'm worried that's where we're freaking headed. But yeah. They just, yeah, 8 hour. The song's chorus reflected the ideology of the Great Upheaval. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, and 8 hours for what we will. So yeah, you work 8 hours, you get 8 hours to go home and sleep, and you have 8 hours for your personal things you need to take care of or want to take care of. Those striking across the U.S., it says it was possibly 300,000 up to 500,000, 500,000. New York City, Detroit, Milwaukee, Chicago. Big demonstrations. It just so happened Chicago, though, is where the incident happened that would, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, the bomb, gunfire, it was at 10:30 p.m., so dark, a bomb's thrown, there's gunfire, and of course, anarchists or those pushing for labor, they're treated as, nope, they're the violent ones. They're the one that did this clearly. I don't know. I couldn't see it, couldn't verify it, but clearly. But of course, we would have different effects. There's the 7 sentenced to die. Seeing if they had we could see their names or not. Felden, Ling, Spies, Schwab. I think Michael Schwab is the different one that we hadn't had listed before. Anyway, shrink back. Yeah. But clearly, like I said, one of these moments, pivotal moments in American labor, the rights of American workers. The Chicago Times described the defendants as arch counselors of riot, pillage, incendiarism, and murder. Other reporters described them as bloody brutes, red ruffians, dynamarchists, bloody monsters, cowards, cutthroats, thieves, assassins, and fiends. And again, remember, these guys, there was no proof they were even involved. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Seeing if there's anything else listed here we need to talk about. Suspected bombers. The prosecution made the argument that Ling had built the bomb, and prosecution witnesses, Harry Gilmer and Malvern Thompson, tried to imply that the bomb thrower was helped by spies Fisher and Schwab. The defendants claimed they had no knowledge of the bomber at all. Several activists, including Robert Reitzel, later hinted they knew who the bomber was. Writers and other commentators have speculated about many possible suspects. They go on to list a few here. Rudolf Schnabelt, George Schwab, George Meng, and Agent Provocateur, a disgruntled worker, Clemana Schultz, Reinhold Big Kruger, a mysterious outsider, but yeah. So again, so much bullshit went on in this moment. We don't know who started it, yet there were people accused and tried. without any real evidence. It would have been, well, today, maybe it would have been accepted under the Trump administration. But before Dumbass Donnie took effect, it would have been thrown out of court. But yeah. We'll go ahead and end this episode there. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting my sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.